Good afternoon. It is the Everton Daily Live, John and myself.
Thursday?
Yeah, it is Thursday. And it's David Moyes is throwing us off, isn't he, by having press conferences on a Friday.
Yeah.
He's throwing us off a little bit because we've been used to Thursdays as our press conference, or at least 2 days before, and we can get all prepared. No situation on the injuries. Come into this show, talk about it, and it's like an extra day where we have to find something to talk about. But yes, I'm sure he'll be here tomorrow at 1:30. I think he might as well just do it early, mightn't he? Just do it early.
It always fascinates me that it's those press conferences are fundamentally contractual obligations, aren't they? Premier League preview period, all that sort of stuff. And you think they just appreciate it might change with a manager, but you think it might be 1:30, always the last working day before the game or something like that. But it's like every week you wait to be told exactly when it really is. Yeah. Well, at least because they won't let us in, we don't have to traipse to Finch Farm. But Joe Thomas must be sitting in his office right now thinking, what time do I have to go tomorrow? Yeah. And he doesn't know. So he can't plan anything until he does know.
Yeah. But I suppose
you're watching, Joe, because if you know you should be.
I suppose with a change of manager, the maybe a new manager sets just exactly how he wants it. If the manager wants it the day before,
no, that's fine. I get all that. But then you establish it, don't you? And everybody knows. So.
Yeah. Well, it seems like that's what it's going to be.
All that money we pay to the press association, and
no one tells us.
They get messed about as well. Yeah.
They don't even tell us when it is.
Well,
it would be good if they did. Just so we knew. Yeah, it probably comes down to working practices as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you're working, how you work, what sessions you do, and all that kind of thing. But anyway, we digress. John, are you getting nervous at all? I know the answer to this question, but are you getting nervous at all at the lack of transfers coming in at Everton?
No.
I
know because my social media streams must be like yours. There's everything from people going, all quiet on the Western Front, to I'm getting really worried that nothing's going to happen and we urgently need players. And I guess we're all somewhere in between. Yeah. No, I'm not worried per se. I mean, me and Baz talked briefly on the desk the other day about it. When do you get worried? I don't know. I guess you get worried 1 minute past 11 on Monday and nothing's happened. But I would imagine that the manager has made it very clear what he wants and needs. And I'd almost suspect he would have wanted players in for this Saturday's game. But, because we've got 3 games coming pretty smartish one after the other, haven't we? So
we've got a week, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got a week, and then we've got a busy couple of weeks of games.
That's right. So
especially obviously with the derby as well, but people are getting panicky because, and you understand why, obviously.
Panicky is a big word, Baz. Ped.
It's all right, I'm just sitting here. I'm like a
You're
hologram.
Very similar.
Just a hologram.
Yeah, but panic's an extreme word, isn't it?
But people do panic though, don't they? People do panic. I mean, we see it in the comments, and people do get panicky this time.
You see Kane's...
Yeah,
they're still tweets, aren't they?
Yeah.
Kane's tweet, which was he doesn't want panic buys, and I would fully endorse that. But the first response he got was, "We desperately need players. We must get players." So it's a difficult.
Well, it's been heightened, hasn't it, by obviously losing 2 of our first team players.
So
it's been heightened, and certainly for one of those players, I think James Garner can come in and do a very effective job. Although you do lose. You lose someone off the bench that hasn't been on the bench really, bar one game.
Well, you hope then Tim steps in behind. Don't you?
Yeah.
So that one's less panicky.
Yeah, that one's a little bit less panicky.
The leader of the line type centre forward who was right on it before he got himself injured.
And obviously we were looking at players. Moyes had already hinted that we were looking at players. Well, he'd more than hinted, hadn't he? That we were going to try and get players. So I think that just compounds it, doesn't it? And I also feel like because we've just won 2 games, it's tantalisingly close. The brass ring, as they call it, is tantalisingly close, isn't it? Especially with the
ring.
Yeah, that's what they call it, the brass ring.
Is it?
Yeah. Very, very. It's American terminology.
Oh, okay.
The thing you're after, the thing you're there. It's just there. Just need to grab it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And a win against Leicester would.
Well, it really put them in trouble.
Yeah, they would,
in the gap to us.
Yeah, it would massively. I mean, if we beat Leicester on Saturday, I think a lot of people would go, we should be absolutely fine for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Take one game at a time,
Yeah.
rather than a big block of looking at it as a big block of a relegation fight sort of thing. I think people are definitely looking up. Look, people are like that now. People are feeling like that now. But obviously, a win on Saturday would cement that. If you add a couple of new players into the mix then as well, then people are thinking, right, we're going to be fine. You're right. No panic buys. No, there's no need for panic buys. But I think just with those injuries, it has been heightened, hasn't it? Just that you can sort of feel how small the squad is.
Okay, so let's, for the interest of debate, right? So it's Tuesday morning, and we didn't add anyone. Are you panicking?
I'm not panicking.
Right.
No.
Because we talk about this when we do the business stuff. If you come to terms with the worst thing that can happen from your perspective, then makes your mental state, if nothing else, a little bit better, right? So, because the fear is, and I hope the club, and I suspect in the past they have, listened to fan sentiment and so on, it almost becomes any players coming in is better than none, which isn't the case.
No.
And perhaps the last time we got into a panicky purchase thing was in and around the manager getting the chair getting the ump with the appointments of Allardyce, walking off the patch and leaving Rysantsev and Keith Harris to go and get Tosin and Walcott. And we live with those mistakes for a long, long time. So I think if we just carve it up as, yes, we need to fatten up the squad. We probably need to fatten it up in the right positions. We certainly need to fatten it up with experience in those positions. In other words, no, this is the greatest new young thing from this league, and he's 19 and he's replacing DCL type, that if they are proper thought through acquisitions, then that's okay. I also said, when me and Baz talked about it earlier in the week, was you've got to give the manager a little bit of veto, or almost he's got the golden ticket to say, actually, this is what I need to achieve the primary objective without mortgaging the future too much. So if we bring in a couple of players and as we might think, strategically the wrong age, probably earning too much, but they fully satisfy the manager's need, then that's okay. But beyond that, you don't want to mortgage the future.
No.
Because every penny spent now is a penny you can't spend in the summer.
Yeah, and we haven't spent. We didn't spend last summer.
Right.
Sorry, last January. We didn't spend the January before.
That's right.
The one before was, I'm trying to work out where we were. One before, I don't think we did either, did we? And I think the one before that, is that the one when Lampard came in and we got Delhi and we got Van der Beek as well. And we missed out
They turned out well, didn't they?
Yeah, and we missed out on a striker as well, didn't we? We missed out on the striker we were promised. But it hasn't. The objective has still been fulfilled, hasn't it? Ultimately. Yes. So you're right. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's a half. Because the objective now is a different objective from the summer. You don't want to go long term on anyone who's over a certain age.
No.
You want to get some youth in that mightn't even be for now. So it mightn't even benefit you too much. If we could get a loan in, maybe someone to the end of the season.
You mean a UK loan?
Yeah, like a Dewsbury Hall.
So sort out Brozier.
Yeah.
Or indeed, Mangala's an international one, so he can't help. So sort out Brozier to release a loan spot and replace him with something else which adds to the squad.
Yeah.
And therefore, the easiest way to achieve that is to do a deal with Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there must be a number of players Chelsea would like to send out on loan, and therefore one hopes some of those are ones the manager would be happy with, and that's like a perfect solution, isn't it?
Yeah.
You replace a guy who was here till the end of the season with a guy who was here till the end of the season, and almost certainly as a starter.
Well, that's where I would be disappointed, actually, if we didn't get one. I would be disappointed if we do send Brozier back and we have a choice of, maybe now it's like 2, but by Sunday
It could be a few more.
It could be 4, couldn't it? Chelsea could be like, no, we desperately want these players to leave, and we've got a choice of maybe 4 different positions. Then I will be a little bit disappointed that they didn't use that opportunity to bring some in for the rest of the season. I think that would be the one where I go, you did have a chance there. You have got to fit. I think the Brozier thing's mad to me, because if he stays, you're paying his wages and he doesn't play. And if you let him go back, you're paying his wages and he doesn't play. So what's the best outcome? Well, if you can get another player out of that situation, then that's what you take. I don't get this thing of like, oh, Everton aren't prepared to pay it. You're paying it while he sits on our treatment statement, and you might you might get a couple of games out of him, but he's so injury prone that who knows if he will. The
reality is that there'll be some horse trading, or if you prefer a professional phrase, negotiations about what value Everton place on having a free loan slot.
Yeah,
because Chelsea want that money, you know, and that, you know, it's no value to Chelsea at all. They didn't want the player in the first place because that's why they let him go on loan. He's just going to be consuming their medical people, and they're not going to make any more money.
Yeah,
based, as you just described it. So they say, well, but it's really valuable to Everton to have a loan slot, either to pick up someone else from somewhere else or to pick someone else from us. Surely Chelsea's approach here is double whammy.
Yeah.
We take him back, we get paid for him, and then we get rid of one of these guys, and we also get paid for them. Yeah. Hooray! You know. And
also, there's an opportunity certainly for the Dewsbury Hall where Everton could buy him in the summer.
Absolutely.
So they make the money. So they make some money back.
So would you be comfortable putting words in your mouth almost? Say it was Dewsbury Hall, that it was loan to the end of the season with option to buy on our side.
Option, yeah, not obligation. Option for the Dewsbury Hall kind of player. Well, is he 26?
So he's just coming into prime in theory.
He would sort of fit the bill. He's gone missing basically at Chelsea. We knew
as many do.
Yeah, we knew what they would do, and they were trying to just fatten the squad up and different manager come. Yeah, so that to me would be the scenario where I would be disappointed. Another player who's mentioned certainly last week was someone like Willian, and it's a very individual case.
Isn't he a free agent?
So he was if he was offered to us and we said, right, we'll take you for 6 months, that's another one I'd go, yeah, do you know what?
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
Well, late in the window, we can pad out the squad, can't we? And for a free agent, come play in the Premier League. His buying power is lessened. You know, can't demand huge sums if he's about to sit on his hands. Albeit being a free agent, he doesn't have a deadline to worry about.
No.
So we don't even have to do it, you know, on the day. You can wait until the window's closed and say, we'll still take you, but whatever. Because he is a real free agent, isn't he? It's not just a fiddle so he can go somewhere.
See that one? So that's something like that. And then a longer term one, which will be someone who is young, maybe not for now, but you could get something out of them now. And so that would make sense as well. Yeah. Someone who is for the future that you do bring in now because you're trying to maybe beat the fact that other people might be looking at him in the summer, don't want to take the chance. So that would be something I'd look at, because
you just talked, in effect, then summarising optimistically about bringing in 2 experienced Premier League footballers, one who doesn't cost you a loan spot, one you have to do some jiggery pokery with, and if the manager wants at least 2 per se, then the third one is the one that perhaps is a purchase because you might want to buy him in the summer anyway. But that, based on the chat, means the third one is the striker one, which is a risk, and that leaves you going with Chimisi and Beto to the end of the season. Unless, of course, Beto goes out and you've got a few bob to spend, and you can do.
It's a big turnaround, isn't it?
It is.
It's a lot to do within a very small.
That's right. Albeit we've had months. All right. So we're only managing what's changed, not the whole plan, aren't we? That's the point. You know, you tweak a plan, you know, and react to it. You know what happens. And the 2 injuries has just really probably thrown a few things up in the air, hasn't it? Which is really unfortunate.
Is this where, I mean,
it's better those injuries happening last week than next week.
Yeah, that is too. Yeah, it's. Do you have any sympathy for, say, Kevin Felwell in terms of what's with everything that's happened, as in change of manager?
No.
Players get injured.
No.
Kevin
Felwell, as a director of football, has been involved with football, 10, 15 years or something. This is BAU. If we were going to an independent commission, the judge would be saying players getting injured, that's part of what happens. You know, players who you thought were going to come to you and then the window opens and they've changed their mind, that happens, right? Which is why the key always, and we've not seen any evidence of this really yet, have we, is that we want our football club to be decisive in its decision making. And if they're being decisive behind the scenes, fabulous, because it takes two to tango. It's all well and good us knowing exactly who we want, lining up that player's agent, lining up that player, but if his current club is saying, yeah, but only when we get somebody else, and you get that domino effect. So, no, I've no sympathy at all, and it's got nothing to do with how much these guys get paid, but they do get paid huge sums of money to make the sort of decisions people on fractions of that have to do all day, every day, outside of football. Things happen. You know, being on top of your brief is about being able to react to those things. And if you're actually any good, you run scenarios about what if. What would we do if DCL broke down again? Which is an easy one to predict, isn't it? What would we do if Brozier broke down again? That's all he's been injured perpetually for 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? So then it's just about decision making, and then you're in the hands of the other party because they may not want to move as fast as you do.
I think
so. It's frustrating, I think, if you've got your lovely plan,
and
then you just have to sit on your hands, wait until 8 o'clock on Monday night before some club says, "Yeah, okay, we've got our man, you can have yours."
Yeah, I Felwell, I fear for Felwell if he doesn't get or provide or hasn't provided options for David
absolutely.
Moyes. I think his feet won't touch the ground.
I'll do it myself
because there's obviously going to be a clash. I mean, there's no suggestion that Selwell had many players lined up for this window. I mean, obviously we don't know too much about that, but you know,
we don't know anything.
We're a few days before the window's closing, and Everton seem to be no near closer to signing a player.
Who's bought anyone? Who's other than City?
Well, it's the need, though, isn't it? It doesn't matter about who else has bought. It's the need, isn't it? And it's
every team in Europe might want to strengthen their squad, some more urgently than others. But if he's being Kevin Thelwell, if he's produced, make it up, 3 centre forward types, and David's happy with all 3, therefore it's just the best one at lowest price type of thing. But none of the clubs involved want to make a decision until next Monday because they're doing something else. There's nothing you can do about it other than paying more money and saying, well, you know, if you do the deal right now, you end up with more money than if you do it next week. But there's nothing in the recent, you know, outcomes that suggests that we're particularly good negotiators, you know, where we do walk away and say, well, you missed your chance, see ya, we're moving on to the next one. And that's the recurring theme of going where you've been before, you know. So, I think David, it's all well and good saying, you know, Kev's going to be on dodgy ground if he doesn't produce the goods. But hence the question at the beginning, what about Everton? Forget about Kevin. You know, his outcomes probably has already been determined by the ownership. So he just needs to do a bit better on execution.
Would
i.e. the outcomes he wants
would having, this is the businessy type question because you're here, would having a CEO who is the CEO help in a situation like this?
I always think it's funny, and you just said it before, or I said it before, that we as a football club historically have lacked decisive leadership, and therefore be decisive in our decision making. I think having an interim CEO, perhaps someone who was doing what he was doing before he came the interim and so on, the dynamics between, if we simplify it, the chief executive officer and the people who support him, like the FD and stuff like that, the director of football and the manager, the least influential out of those 3 is the chief exec, and he should be the most influential. In other words, if he had to say it, and he's failing, but he does, but excuse me, you guys work for me, okay? Get the goddamn deal done, right? Or no, you can't do that. Why are you bringing deals to me which are way over what we can afford? You've been told what we can, and so on and so forth. My fear would be, Colin's just not that sort of guy. And this is perhaps more concerning, everything has to go back to the States to say, can we do this? Can we do this? Instead of being decisive, seek forgiveness if it turns out you got it wrong. Don't seek approval. Because a chief exec and or a director of football and or a football manager all going, well, we were waiting for the States and they never come back to us, doesn't mean anything when the window's closed. Yeah? So, short answer, because just had a load of waffle then, wasn't it? A better chief exec who was actually a leader would clearly deliver a better outcome. because they'd facilitate it.
Cut through all that.
Yeah, they'd be the interface back to the States. They'd make sure the States understood timescales and all these sorts of things. And therefore, but you'd have pre-done this.
I was going to say, would any of that even matter if you had a CEO who was clearly being brought in to do that job? Would you even have to pick up the phone if you want to sign a player? Wouldn't you just have to, no, you can have them because we know what the budgets are?
Well, and that's the point. Everton Football Club right now, for months, have known what we can afford.
Yeah.
And hopefully the director of football has known which players he wants to use what we can afford on. And he had the agreement of the manager, but then the manager changed. And therefore you do have a period when you go through all that with the new manager. And the new manager said, I don't need one of them. I'm playing Jake O'Brien now.
Yeah.
Don't need one of them. Nathan Patterson's doing all right. I want one of those. But that's just a matter then of the director of football tweaking his plan and then executing.
Yeah.
To go back to HQ, if that's in Houston or wherever it is, through ownership, would seem daft to me. As we keep saying, they've been here 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't expect the Friedkin group to make every decision on everything when the director of football since September has known what we want to do, if anything, in January, and they only took over effectively, when everyone come back from their Christmas holidays, right? So, decisive leadership always helps, always.
Do you think, again, going back to Thelwell, he'll be just doing the job, won't it? I mean, his contract runs out in the summer, but that's not going to be making. That's not going to be making any difference, is it? Really, or
shouldn't,
or would it from a?
It depends on your personality. Some people, again, if you've worked in normal jobs and stuff, we've all seen the type of person wants to resign. That's it. They don't do any more work. Yeah. And then there's the ones who, 5 minutes before they leave, you wouldn't know they were leaving.
Yeah.
Most people are somewhere in between, aren't they? But I would imagine Kev knows what's going to happen. It would make perfect sense. Well, I'll paraphrase my own words, right? Sometime between the day after this window's closed and the next window opens, we'll know what's happening with him. And hopefully the sooner the better. Because in the grand scheme of things, he ain't going to do anything till the window opens, and the window opens sort of when his contract's ended. So he needs to know, doesn't he? Yeah. Because it's not right to speak to agents and other clubs and all those sorts of things, trying to do deals when you know you're not going to be here, or you might not be here. So I think we'll hear something in some weeks.
Could you see a scenario where, when the CEO comes, that a new sporting director might come, or a new director of football might come with him?
Well, it depends on the organisation and how it's going to be run. Because, again, when we used to do Everton Business Matters, and I'm an advocate of the director of football approach, but I think that's very much the chief exec of the sporting side. Yeah. And the other chief exec is the chief exec of the business side. And because we have an executive chair at the moment, that role is over both. So that would make the answer to your question no. Yeah. No, I just thought that... You clearly have influence.
I just thought that... Yeah. I just thought that maybe, like you just said, when the window shuts, Kevin Fellow's got nothing really to do in terms of other than planning for the summer. And if that's a summer that he's planning for that ain't going to be here, then if a new CEO's coming in soon, then it might be a case of... we might be appointing a director of football in the background as well. And they both come into... Well, CEO comes in and a couple of days later you go, and this is the new... Kevin Fellow says he's leaving, blah, blah, blah. He's leaving. And here's your new director.
Statistically, in the non-footballing world, i.e. just industry, when a new chief exec is appointed, within 18 months, all the direct reports have changed. Because people want their own people. Yeah. So whilst if their peers, i.e. if the organisation treats the director of football and the chief executive as level with each other, then this guy's not going to change it, but can still influence. Yeah, he can go to his boss and go, I know a better guy than this guy. And guess what? He's where I used to work. And guess what? Maybe you guys know him anyway, and so on. Yeah, that's your Paul Barber, David Weir, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but it's just all hypothetical. Yeah.
We'll wait and see. Yeah. Let's have some of our comments. Gary Waters, Hardy. Oggy says, and this will be the team. Got a feeling Monday night will be like when we signed Lukaku, Barry, and McCarthy. Now that was obviously
good.
That was pre obviously Toffee TV and sort of that. I don't even know if it was I can't even remember how big Sky Sports News' transfer deadline day was time. That might have been around like peak, almost yellow tie sort of thing.
Oh yeah, yellow jackets. All that, yeah.
I do remember at the time I was actually doing a live podcast whilst that was on, whilst the news broke, and it was unbelievable because we knew people were listening and people and it was just never known the likes of it, and that's like the standard, and that's prime Barclays. When it comes to transfer deadline days, people probably outside. You know, when Sky reports, when they go back to Berbatov going to United and all these kind of things, these big, we can just shadowy people in the buildings. But for us, that was our equivalent, and that was an incredible one. That really set the tone for the rest of the season.
Of course it does, and that's the lift you can get from 2 or 3 players if they're the right ones.
And we did. We beat West Ham the next game, didn't we? 3-2. We'd drawn all 3 games up to that point, and we went to West Ham and beat them 3-2, and obviously Rom scored and never looked back.
And it does actually bring, because you just said it, and we won the game the day after type of thing. If you're the manager, right, you perhaps would think, you know what, if we announce 3 new players, as an example, on Friday, that's much better for me than announcing them first thing Monday morning.
Yeah.
Because everyone in my squad goes, new blood. My job's at risk, I must work harder, or finally we've got what we need, all of the above. Yeah. Fans are enthused, and it could be the marginal gain that you needed just to get the Leicester game over the line. And would you preempted all this by saying, we beat them, most of us will think, job done, sort of. Never count your chickens.
There are a few pictures of David Moyes knocking round with like 3 or 4 players that he signed. Badly dressed footballers, let me say. James, just go and have a look at... Try and see if you can find a picture of David Moyes, Pina, Jagielka, a couple more, and they're just in the worst gear you've ever seen. But it's like, you know, he's got it. And then there's another one, I think, when we brought in like Kilban and Jeffers on loan and a couple of others, and the players just look terrible. But that's what we want. We want like Moyes next to 2 or 3 players.
In his gardening clothes.
Yeah, they're the ones we want. Blue Keeley says, I'm starting to worry now. Hope Oggy is right. Hoping for at least 3, expecting at least 2. Is that part of the problem? Is that we are, like, we've put in our heads that we're expecting a couple, and now that we're getting sort of to the later hours, it's...
Well, clearly the 2 number's easy to come to, isn't it? Because there was 2 players in the squad a week or so ago who are not going to be there likely as not for the remainder of this season, as we do right near the end. And just before that, there was another one. So we're 3 down, aren't we, as far as we would see it? But then if you were the business person sitting in the room talking about money, you'd say, well, I know 3 have gone out that door, David, but at least a couple have come in this door. So what is it we really want?
Yeah.
Would you spend every penny you've got available, whatever that means, on one player if it was a effective leader of the line centre forward?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that player has been looked at, agreed upon as the future of the football club.
So you want that lovely remember January when we got such and such, right? So maybe as an outright purchase almost.
Yeah, well, me and Baz have mentioned that a couple of times this week. It's like, where's the list of players that we're looking at to replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
Yeah,
and I'm not saying,
leaving.
By the way, I'm not saying just go and get one of them, because it's far more difficult.
Simple,
and the budget right now is different from the budget that will get that player.
Sure.
But you do. The argument is we have got 4 centre forwards right now who are classed as Everton players.
Yeah.
Come the first game of next season, 3 of those players, I firmly believe, will not be Everton players.
So that's Dom, Brozier and Beto.
Yeah, they'll be gone. Schmidt,
the future is sort of there.
The future is Schmidt, but again, it's not like you can go, oh, Schmidt will be our starting centre forward on either.
Because of the injury stuff.
Yeah, because this season would have been that season where he would have got a lot more games. He would have been Sean Dyche's number 2 centre forward. He's like for like with Dom.
He just scored a few goals.
And so this would have been that breakthrough season, and we saw a little bit of it.
That's why the injury was so...
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunate.
Have you got it? Go on, put that picture up.
Not as bad as you were making out.
Oh, come on. Look at the state of them.
I think Pienaar really wins that one, yeah. Who do you think wins it?
That's so of its time, isn't it? That is absolutely so of its
The
time.
nearest to being cool is that bloke in the white shirt.
Bainesy just looks so young, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
He just looks so young.
Yeah.
Tremendous stuff. Tremendous. See if you can find the one with Kevin Kilban and McFadden and Jeffers on it.
Yeah. Making it easy, just put them 3 names in and one picture will come back on it.
So this would have been his breakthrough season in many ways.
It would, yeah.
So I think he'll be the only centre forward left.
Yeah.
So that for me makes it really easy. You need to centre forward's the number 1 position on the pitch. If you've already got ideas, I don't know how much they will have changed under David.
But that's your business leader. You don't need to be the subject matter expert, do you? The business leader goes, hang on a minute, 2 of these guys weren't going to be our players on July the 1st, probably.
Yeah.
What were you going to do?
Yeah.
Well, we had 3 or 4 months, I think. No, you should have had it already, you know?
Yeah. And again, as I said, the kind of player you might be looking at is not available now. Might be playing for someone, a European team who's still in the Champions League.
Or any of the competitions.
Yeah, could be in, could be there. This is something me and Baz discussed yesterday. Of like, who's to say there isn't a player who was playing for the Champions League team last night or playing for a Europa League team tonight who's going to get knocked out and then the team go, now he's available. There's those things to consider, especially if you've been scouting that player. There are a few about, and that's the kind of level we'd be looking at. So, yeah, if the budget was there and the player was available and it's someone you've been tracking and it's someone you've been looking at, even if that player was almost like your number 2 centre forward in the summer, this is not the guy we want to be our de facto number 9, but he's someone who is on the list and we think is very, very promising, and we were going to buy him anyway, just that we're going to get him 6 months earlier. If that player is available and can get him, of course you'd want to sign him. And I just think that from before the Brighton game, there was, a lot of people would say, do you know what? Could really do with another left back, or you know what? A right winger is really important. But I think the minute those 2 players got injured, that you just went, we don't actually need another left back. We can cope. Right winger,
we could always cope.
We can cope. Yeah, you're just getting better. You can cope. You can just want better.
That's right.
I think you're going to have to put the better bit on the back burner. But for now, that centre forward position has become such, to have one play, to have no idea what's going on with Chimiti. And actually, this is where I think the club need to start reading the room on like social media and stuff. I think this is where effective communications, and which we've spoke about quite a lot, is. I think this is where effective communications should work, where people go, don't you think this would be a really good time to give people an update on where Schmidt is? Whether it's good or whether it's bad. I think this is effective. Like in American sports, like say NFL, every single day they have basically a press conference on the different heads, and they have part of that is they have an injury update, all the time. Sure. Who's fit, who's not fit. Now I don't expect football clubs to do that, but I think with the situation going on, rather than wait until Friday for someone to ask David Moyes, and I'm sure one of the journalists will do that tomorrow. Sure. But it would have been sensible, I think, this week for good communications for Everton to come out and said, here's an update on Schmidt. This is where he is right now. And he's not...
Same on Dwight McNeil.
Yeah. Where are... I think...
Where are they at?
There used to be a weekly meet up with the manager on a Wednesday. Local media. Alan Myers actually invited me to one many years ago when I was doing the radio with Baz. And... basically a couple of journalists, or one from the Echo, one from Radio Merseyside, one from Radio City at the time, will get a little face-to-face with them. That's how the journalists become very pally with the manager for that reason. I got one with Roberto Martinez, and you got to just ask him anything you wanted, basically. But you get that injury update in the week to fill your whatever you needed to fill. And I just think this week would have been a really good time to go, this is where Schmidt is.
I think part of what you would hope would happen on a change of ownership, because lots of stuff is around culture, isn't it? Right? And I think there's a cultural thing which has got on its quite deep foundations. The right things, laudable behaviours. Yeah. But I think the football club too much thinks, for example, if you're asking about what's the status with Kevin Thelwell, oh, well, that's personal.
Yeah.
well, yeah. I don't want to know, is he getting the sack? I don't want to know how much he gets paid, but I do want to know what we're going to do with directors of football. And even if all you do is you say, we'll let you know in March or whatever, right? And people stop asking the questions. Same with players, what's up with Dwight McNeil? What's up with, where's Chimity to? Where's what? You don't want to know the ins and outs of their personal physical condition, right? But you do want to know if they're out for a week or a month.
That's it, and that's all it is. That's all it is. It doesn't have to. Don't get me wrong. David Moyes keeps the cards very close to his chest. So tomorrow, if there's a player who is a maybe, he might just go, it's not available. Yeah. And then he rocks Saturday, team comes out, he's on the bench.
And that's competitive advantage.
Exactly.
That's okay. No one has
problem with that. No one has an issue.
That's right.
But I do think, though, for to understand the psychology of a football fan, you have to now and again play your part and just say, Chimity will not be available for X number of weeks, and that's it. That's your medical update. Every week, just have a medical update. In fact, we've said it loads of times. I think when the press conference starts, everyone should be given a piece of paper which basically tells everyone.
Don't waste your questions on this. Yeah,
tells everybody what your injuries are, and then Everton afterwards can put a thing out going, this is the Everton, and no one has to ask the question, because you don't have to put the manager in a sticky position or anything either.
No.
If someone's not on the list, or if you've put he's going to be available next week and he ends up being available this week, fine. But I do think for people like Chimity, where people are like, where is he? What's the injury? Because no one knows what the injury is, and no one knows how long he's out. And I think that just breeds some kind. I think, as I said, football clubs are not stupid. They watch this. They'll listen to something. They know when something gets said. They'll pull someone if Joe writes something, they'll pull him on it and go, why have you wrote that? Or that's factually incorrect. Well, if you know that already, provide the information.
The easy way to summarise that is, particularly journalist types, if they don't have a fact, they have an opinion. And their boss is saying, you've got to write stuff. If you can't write it on fact, you write it on opinion.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which, of course, if you're talking about, private, personal, all those sorts of things about players, and whether it's anything from are they fit or to what they get paid, if you don't provide anything, that's where rumours come from.
Yeah. And we've seen that. We've seen those rumours in the last couple of weeks. There was a Mangala rumour last week, which, don't get me wrong, the football club doesn't have to answer every rumour.
No,
sometimes those rumours can push a journalist to say, ask a question about a certain player, or how's your midfield looking, or whatever. There was rumours about Dwight McNeil, which again, certain people with influence shouldn't be pushing that stuff on social media. Irresponsible, as far as I'm concerned, because people.
And it happens on the business side as well. Look how quickly the traction got that. TFG are going to buy out all the minority shareholders, and they're only going to get 175 quid for the share, regardless of what they paid for it.
Yeah.
And you go, what? Where's that come from? Sort of thing. But things like that will get traction, and silence just makes it sound like it's true.
So it was good that actually that.
Absolutely.
David Moyes came out last week and said, he's got a knee injury and he might need an operation, because everyone went, okay, that's.
But we had weeks upon weeks of don't ask the question, sort of thing, which. Hence, the void gets filled by rumour.
To be honest, go back 2 years, or just under 2 years, when Don was injured, and Sean Dyche would never answer the question. He would never. People every week, why you keep asking me? Because you never answer the question. You never tell anybody when he's going to be back, even though he wasn't going to be back for like 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So just like say, he probably won't be back for 3 months. So let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
And don't ask me again.
And then if they do ask, you say, are you deaf?
And if they do,
I told you last week.
And if he does come back in the 3 months, you go, wow, it's a miracle. Our medical staff, wow.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Don't lie too much.
Yeah.
But, make it a bit longer than it is for real, because that gives you the headroom if something goes wrong, doesn't it? It's all about how you're trying to influence narratives and without lying, basically.
Steve P says he's panicking. Mark Mack.
Don't panic, Steve.
Mark Mack says it looks like a tough market out there. I want a forward and we need a forward. But if you don't get one, I won't be blaming anyone, as the value of money doesn't look like it's out there. Stick Big Keane off top. No, don't stick Big Keane off top. Ian the Blue says,
Stick Big Beto up top.
yeah, he says, I'd love that lad they played for Bruges last night on the right wing. He's already played for Norwich. Would be interesting to see how much he was. He looks quick.
They're an example of, they'll say, no, we're actually into the playoff stages. If
but you look at people like that, don't you? And you just go, how did you get these players to play like that together? Like, you know what I mean? It's
Form is temporary.
But it is, but it's just mad, isn't it? It's just like, they haven't been, that was their first defeat in like 20 odd games or something. Yeah. Josh says, ITKs all say we're getting Messi, Suarez and Neymar at 2014, so I'm not worried at all. Jez says, the concern over signings is due to the way the club have conditioned us for years. It would be lovely if we had someone to actually hear on corporate activity, but as per nothing. He said slightly something different. I'm more surprised that TFG haven't sorted this bit out yet. I don't think they need to tell us who we are buying, but some level of an update on a weekly basis from Mark Watts will go a long way.
See, I'm totally opposed to that.
Yeah.
Mark Watts is a West Coast American lawyer, okay? And we have a director of football.
Yeah.
So if we want sporting updates, it comes from the director of football. In my view, right? And we had this because he was an interfering so-and-so, Mashiri, where people wanted Mashiri to do things. No, every time you say that, the people we're paying to do this get a bit of a letter. And the balance to that is they get awfully frustrated because it's almost like the owner thinks, oh, the fans want me to do it, you know, sort of thing, which is
football.
Oh, here we go.
No, here's the other one. Go on, put that one up. That's brilliant.
Oh, that's much worse than the.
Yeah, but what I like about this one is though, and the football club.
I like that Moisey just tucked his shirt in.
The football club would probably don't have the smarts to do this, but look, the home kit, away kit, third kit, and goalkeeper kit.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Humour. Hands on the shoulders is a bit weird.
That's clever though, isn't it? And none of them quite know which camera to look at, which is also a little bit weird.
The cameraman obviously said the two on the end, but you're
and Moisey's gone full tucked in, which looks weird. Having a stats chair, it looks like it's right pulled down. That's tremendous. James McPartland, the kit he's wearing is tremendous. Everton never wore it.
Moisey wants everyone to DM him. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's Cajun on his training top looks like it was done, and you know he's gone to like.
Looks like he press-signed it on himself.
Yeah, like he's gone somewhere in the Albert Dock in the 90s, next to a massive sweet shop. And got it. Can you put Cajun on this for us?
We've got all them kits, haven't
Brilliant.
we? Yeah.
I've got this one as well that I found.
Oh, and there's more.
Right, well, I'll tell you what, there is a picture, but it won't be in there. But there's actually a picture of me in the Finch Farm laundry, right, of me holding up Jags' shirt just after he'd signed. Because I mean, breaking in is a little bit over the top. But I give myself a personal tour of Finch Farm.
Where's that picture taken? That's not Finch Farm.
That's Belfield.
That's what I mean. It's Belfield. Yeah. So did we move around that time, or was it just during?
Yeah, we would have moved. Because basically he signed then, but some of the stuff was going on at Finch Farm
already.
So my dad provided the concrete for Finch Farm, and it was the last ever load. So I went down.
Is your dad a concrete pourer?
He is, yeah. He provides concrete. So it was the last load.
Pat Brewer, if you're watching,
and he's still working. Thing. He's 72.
Yeah, Pat was still doing it 70 as
he had his cataracts
Colorado,
done.
Yeah.
So my dad's wore glasses for years, and he had his cataracts done last week, and now he's like, he's got no glasses, and I'm like, are you my dad? And he's looking at me without his glasses, going, are you my son? Because I can see you now. But yeah, I got my own personal tour of Finch Farm, which some people at the football club.
Did you put your hand in some concrete?
No, I wouldn't have done anything like that. But I basically had a pair of flip-flops on, shorts, T-shirt, and just threw a yellow high-vis on.
Not much has changed.
And just walked round. And yeah, I was just like,
thanks, James.
I just took pictures of everything, and the club weren't really happy about it, but it was a good tour. But the woman took a picture of me, and I was just woman in the laundry room saying, "Yeah, come in," and I just held up the Jagielka shirt. She's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." Didn't know who I was, but
probably thought you were a new signing.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing has changed there. Lines, he says, afternoon lads and fellow Blues. Well, we've been here before, waiting for transfers and not knowing causes panic for some. Seems convenient that because we mentioned interest in Evan Ferguson, West Ham and others are interested. I'm not panicking and no Moisey As we do, I believe he'll be patient, and whatever comes will be suitably vetted. No panic buys, no stupid contracts. Whatever turns up, really who wants to be a Blue, lads. Yeah.
Apart from his name, what do you think of Ferguson?
I really like him, but the injuries are a major problem. And I think, I'll be honest, I think if it's an ankle problem, that could be due to his size. And I've got experience of this. It's if it's the ankles, if he's a big lad, and if his ankles are not holding his weight while he plays football, then that could be a real issue.
Because in broad brush terms, post his breakout season, he's done nothing, has he?
I think he has been injured quite a lot. I think he's a tremendous player. I think he's got so much. There's so much there that could be worked with just because of his pure size, and I think he's almost like a number 9, but with almost a bit of a 10 feeling about him as well.
Yeah.
Very good physically, very good in the air. So, but I just think those injuries are something you'd have to, and clearly Brighton are very concerned about those injuries. Otherwise, they would not be getting rid of him.
They're trying to sell him, aren't they? Basically. Yeah. And he's not very big.
No, I don't think I'm not saying I just think the way he's built.
Oh, I see.
Obviously, his ankles just.
So not height, you mean?
He's a big lad. He's a big lad. Yeah, he's a
6 foot.
Well,
6 foot.
He's a big lad.
Hey, have a look on Wiki. Wiki might be wrong, I suppose, but okay.
Dan says I'm not.
He's played 12 games this season, scored once, but he played 27 last season. So
I just think once you hit that run of being injury prone, it takes its toll.
Hard,
we don't know how he trains. We don't know what effective.
He's not long 20. People forget that because he had that breakout season when he was a baby, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he would have been, 17, 18 or something. So
Dan W says, I'm not too worried, but if we don't sign anyone, it's not on Moyes. Kevin Felwell and his floor of analysts have had months to prepare. He can't use Dyche as an excuse. I'd trust Moyes over Kevin Felwell any day. Duck Doo says, I think Moyes can make something of better if we don't sign another striker. Market looks very tough. Well, even if he makes something of better, though, you want another one, don't you? You need someone who can come off the bench or whatever it is. You can't, we are a 65-minute team, aren't we, at the moment? That team can get through 65 minutes and then there's got to be changes. So a centre forward obviously would be helpful with that. Owen Brown says, quick question for you both. If you had one transfer in this window that you think could come in and make the biggest impact on our team, who would it be, realistically, but can be on the optimistic side? So small down payment, maybe. I mean, you could point at a lot of different people who could come in, couldn't you? Does that mean they're available? Does that mean that they're not available? I don't know. There's so many players out there. I don't know if I could. I just want a really promising centre forward. You know what annoys me? You look at like Morgan Rogers last night and think this time 12 months ago, he was obviously playing in the Championship before Villa got him, and is the one there this season that we're not, is out there and people are looking going, oh, he's all right, him. I mean, literally Villa are selling, Duran, because Morgan Rogers is now the centre forward.
Yeah.
He's the like for like with Ollie Watkins, scoring a hat-trick last night against Celtic, and they're going to get 70 million for Duran based on the fact that Morgan Rogers has done so well. Is there another one like him out there that we can take a chance on? I don't know.
Yes, but you have to go to the well multiple times to be able to show off with the one that you were so clever to get.
Yeah.
It's back to the Steve Walsh stuff, isn't it? People talk about Mahrez and this and that and the other, but loads of players they took a punt on didn't do anything. Yeah. But the fact is, if you can move one on quite quickly, at 70 odd million quid, then you only have to get it right every now and again.
Yeah.
And then that funds all the next ones, doesn't it?
Yeah. Buck says, as I said from yesterday, I don't think there'll be a Groundhog Day on deadline day like there has been for the last couple of windows now. Bainey says, with this man back, I'm not that concerned. We've not signed anyone, just hate the usual clickbait, but I'd imagine there are a few negotiations going on. Yeah, absolutely. Ryan says, hope we're well. If you both had one realistic player and want to sign, who would it be? The Dewsbury Hall link excites me alone. That would benefit us, and he'd be a huge improvement on Decore. Well, again, without going over the same question again, I would refer back to what we were talking about before with Chelsea. I think with Brozier, we've got a really good opportunity there to maybe go to Chelsea and say, you've got 5 or 6 players you don't want. Can we start talking about some of them, please? And
it'd be quite astonishing if we haven't already had that conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Therefore, it's either going on in the background, which is what the commenter's saying, or it's all going to happen in the last few hours.
Yeah. I honestly do believe that Chelsea loan is such a tapping. There's an open goal sitting there
for both,
and I just think Brozier will be paid. We will have to pay Brozier regardless. So send them back and get one of their players and make sure it's a play. Nkunku. I know Man United are looking at him, but play. Really ask the question: what would it take to get this lad on loan?
Yeah.
If you're prepared to let him go to Manchester United. Okay, what would it take for us to have him on loan for the rest of the season? Now, they may go pay his wages and we might go, oh, I don't think so. But ask that question, because they're going to have players effectively in every position that we need. It's all right laughing about Chelsea and going, oh, look at them, they've got 3 squads. But I imagine Chelsea now, as we head into next season, are going to want to start whittling that down. It's great going where we've got a Champions League, a Conference League squad, and we've got a Premier League squad. But next season they're hoping to be in the Champions League, and they can't afford to carry that whole separate team.
No.
So let's start asking the questions now. Who have you got? And if we take them now, what's the chances of having them next season? But the question to us has to be, is there a value in doing that? And hopefully that's what we're doing, because I think it's such a tapping. Dewsbury Hall would be...
He's 27 in September.
Yeah.
And he's barely got a sniff, despite the fact it's his old manager.
Yeah. Well, I think with Dewsbury Hall, but he's one where you'd go, he definitely have a big opportunity of getting on our side.
Well, he start, wouldn't he?
But it doesn't mean we have to keep him. Doesn't mean that we have to.
That's why it's a loan to an option.
The same with Mangala. There was no, just because he was doing well for us doesn't mean we were going to
exercise.
We were going to keep him.
That's right. Yeah.
So you've got to do the best for you, but I do think it's a really good opportunity.
I do. Yeah.
I think it's a really good opportunity.
So you can either choose to worry, panic, as we've been saying for a bit, or just assume it's under control and we'll all find out next week, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Glenn Watson says, John, no jet lag when travelling, and certainly no jet lag in communication business plane. There's no question. It's just a title. It's just a title.
I don't. Did that lead to anything?
No, that was all he said.
Okay.
But I just felt like I had to say it
because it was the longest one.
A couple of people have mentioned the lap from Ipswich. But there's no, whether you like him or you don't like him, you're not getting him now.
The small chance they have of staying up is all in his boots, yeah.
I think he'll leave Ipswich next summer, no matter what. And I think a few teams will look at him, yeah. So, which will drive his price up, because you're saying he ain't getting him for the 20 million they paid for him.
No.
Not for a season.
Proven goal scorer and all that, yeah. In fact, they'd be daft not to sell him. Because that'll be his peak price, unless he turns into what everyone thinks he might turn into.
He won't be going down with. If they go down, he won't be going down with them. Bainey says, "Do you think the fans suffer seeing us so-called linked to all these different players and then go somewhere else, but we weren't actually in for them or at all? Yet we still feel like we missed out." Yeah, that's a big part of it, isn't it? That's a big part of it. And a lot of that is manufactured to bring players in. In fact, it was one probably about the first week of the transfer window, and I can't even remember it now. And we were linked with them, and it was so obvious what was happening. It was so obvious we'd been brought into the conversation to make sure the move that was happening was speeded up.
Yeah,
if
you're an optimist and you say that the players we are interested in then getting linked with others is the same thing going on.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Keith mentioned the lap there as well. No, I mean that's part of the problem right now, isn't it? There's so much going on that you can't. It's hard to separate. I mean, in fact, we want quiet. We want it to be in our world. We want it to be quiet, don't we? We want just to suddenly go, oh God, what? We're in final negotiations, or someone's getting a medical, or you don't want that. You don't want to see what's going on under the water. You just want it to suddenly happen. You don't want anyone getting wind of it, so someone else can change the parameters of the deal, or another team comes in for it. You want it to be happening all below the radar.
You do, and again, we talked about this earlier in the week, didn't we? About Moisey seems to have clamped down a little bit on some of the leakage that was going on. So maybe that's making it worse for people. We've had loads of rumours now. We're not getting any.
Yeah.
And
That's it. People moan about rumours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all clickbaity stuff. But when there's no rumours, then you're not signing anyone.
That's right.
Because you need rumours. Blue Lewis, thanks for the super chat, mate. He says, thanks for the great content. Keep it up. Thank you very much. We're really close to getting to 95,000 subscribers.
What's the number now, James? Where are we at? Well,
really, really close. So if you're watching this, because I do appreciate that people probably tune in every day and aren't subscribed. There'll be the algorithm basically, once you've watched one of our videos, will say to you, oh, we are watching again, and it just appears and you feel like you're subscribed but you're not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed but you watch every day, then give us a subscribe and get us.
You're talking about the lap, right?
Go on.
It's nearly...
We're less than 100 from 95,000.
It's over 4 years
since
he made a Premier League debut for City.
Yeah.
And then he did nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for getting in the team, obviously. Then went on loan to Stoke, scored 3 goals in 22 games.
Yeah.
Then he went on loan to Preston, scored 1 goal in 15 games. Then he went on loan to Hull, scored 8 and 31 in the Championship, and Ipswich says, I'll have a piece of that.
Yeah.
And here they are going to triple or quadruple their money in...
Well,
if it happens.
See, this is where...
Because that's... They saw something.
But that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, the numbers don't show.
This is where real people in recruitment make their money.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I could look at him and go, what? We're buying him for what? Without actually knowing the facts.
That's right, yeah.
Obviously, we know someone who works in recruitment, and it's about minutes. It's not about games. It's about minutes.
Goals.
What did he do in those minutes? Not in the games, in the minutes. It all gets broken down. Is it because of the team they play for? Is it the style?
Yeah.
Would they be better suited? That's where they earn their money. That's why I look at players at times and go, they're a good player. But I sometimes feel like it. You know, we would talk about, someone's mentioned in the comments there, Adebayo from Luton. So it's really easy to look at him and go, he did well in the Premier League last season. When he played, he was obviously injured. He come in and did all right. This season hasn't done much in the Championship. So what's the real version? What's different? Is something different? Was last year actually what he's capable of? Or is this year more him? And it's finding that. And, you know, we even said, I mentioned to Baz yesterday, imagine he went to Luton and said, can we have him on loan for the rest of the season, please? I mean, obviously Luton are in the bottom 3, so they wouldn't do that. But it's, can players, do they get bogged down in the Championship, some players? It doesn't suit them, the way they play doesn't, the opposition. But as soon as they're in the Premier League, maybe there's that little bit more freedom because you don't get tackled, you get pressed. Can they beat the press? You know, look, as I said before, look at Morgan Rogers. He's been absolutely incredible. Now, he did well in the Championship, but I'm not sure that he was so head and shoulders above everybody else in the Championship that you'd go, we must sign him.
In a few more games in the same year seasons, 22, 23 and 23, 24, Ellis Sims scored twice as many goals.
Yeah.
A few more games, like 8, 9, 10, but twice as many.
Yeah.
And no one's queuing up to say, let's get Ellis Sims into a Premier League team. So, as you rightly say, what was going on in the in the Championship? But of course, if you come up with a promoted team, or you know, even if you weren't with them when when they got promoted, but he's a rough house player as well.
He's definitely a rough house.
You know, so he's an irritant. He's a wind-up merchant.
Yeah.
He's all those things you want to make cultured centre-backs uncomfortable with. I'm going to bang into you. I probably talk a lot. You know.
Do you know what, John? We're going to finish in a minute, but you hit on a really good point then, is that one of the successes of Luton last season is because in the Premier League, footballers now are brought up through academies and they play against all the same kind of players. And we've said it loads of times. You watch under 21s and under 18s and they don't go near each other.
That's right.
They don't tackle and they don't even press. They just waltz around, and suddenly you introduce someone like someone who looks like an A-House player, who plays a bit like an A-House player. It gets under the skin of players and they're like, what's this? We don't play against players like this every week. And sometimes that can unsettle people. You know, I think last year Branthwaite had a couple of his most uncomfortable games against Luton.
Yeah.
And like Chris Wood, because he doesn't
Yeah.
don't like that physical side of things where people are getting involved and all that, they made it very uncomfortable. Whereas, because they're normally used to playing now against a centre forward who's actually the old, the winger that's become a centre forward, and he can deal with it in different ways. So
it shows though how hard scouting is. Never mind recruitment.
Yeah.
Because, you look at those numbers for Delap and you think they're not great, are they?
Yeah.
But you see that he came through City's academy.
Yeah. So
you see that he's played for England 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 age groups. Loads of coaches there who can see past the, physically challenging.
Yeah.
And therefore you make a punt, but the punt still cost a small team like Ipswich nearly 20 million, didn't
But what's interesting
How
also
much
is...
did they pay for him? Nearly
20, I think it was.
Yeah.
What's also interesting about that, so the lap is, the two teams that you mentioned he played for don't play football like Ipswich play football,
That's
or
right.
tried to play football this year, but certainly played it last year.
Yeah.
The lap coming from Manchester City played football.
There's
So
your-
therefore
there's the point.
he fits with Ipswich rather than
Better.
he'd ever fit with
Yeah,
those two teams.
absolutely.
Because he's been brought up playing in that way. So last couple, Eddie says how likely is that Harrison goes back to Leeds, and what English loan could we replace him with?
Summer.
No, there was talk yesterday.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, we put
Okay.
it in our news that Leeds were getting prepared to bring him back, but I just can't see that happening. I just can't see it happening. Eddie.
Again, unless it's part of a jigsaw puzzle where you know what's going on, unlikely. But they may think he's the sort, because he's done it before for them and in that league sort of thing, to push them over the line finally.
These last two are definitely up your street.
All right.
Steve P says, is Keith Winers a real person?
Yeah.
I've never heard someone speak about something every day and never get a single thing right about it.
I don't know what happens between what he says and what gets printed.
Yeah.
Because whenever I've met him, he's a worldly wise person, ex-chief exec at Aberdeen, ex-chief exec at Aston Villa, ex-chief exec at Everton.
Yeah.
He can't be that,
That
It's almost like they're writing what they want and attributing it to
that
Keith.
podcast, that podcast that he's on, nonsense for a start.
It is, yeah.
But he's on it the stuff that comes out of his mouth that gets attributed to him, that they put. You can't take any of it seriously because the stuff that has been printed is just utter nonsense.
Yeah. So he is a real person, though.
Glenn Watson says, John fully tucked in business leadership. Blaine, at the end of the season, when at least 10 contracts are expiring, do we have an opportunity to have a best-in-class squad salary review transformation?
Yes.
There you go.
It's a once in a almost generational thing, to use that phrase in footballing terms, that if we really have a plan, and it's not rocket science to say we want to buy young, we want to keep the salaries down, we want to develop, we want to sell at a profit, do it again, all those sorts of things. We will find out in the summer. And it's interesting how someone as powerfully, in personality as David, because he'll challenge some of that, because lots of doing that is medium, long-term stuff. And the manager lives and breathes on short-term stuff. So balancing those things together is why if we do keep Kevin Thelwell, he has to be given authority so that it's not all just give the manager what he wants.
Absolutely.
No, great, huge opportunity. Huge opportunity.
And I'll leave the last word to Emma, who says, I think this is about Keith Winers. He's a blagger. One day we had no room for new signings. The very next day we have £200 million to spend. That sounds very, very, very much attributed to Keith Winers
tabloid
on a
journalism.
headline from someone like Footballer Insider, which, So, listen, you know where to come to get
Truth.
the stuff that's really happening. We're not gonna, unless, don't get me wrong, James has got a terrible habit. He just makes stuff up. He just comes in every day and goes, should we call the headline Everton about to sign Peruvian centre forward for 300 million? And we're like, James, no.
It's only 280.
Yeah.
We've told you.
That's a couple of million over our PSR, James. What are you talking about? So, right. We'll be back for more than a game at 2:15. Massive night Champions League football last night. It was crazy. It's the future. Though, just have every Champions League night all on one night with all the games going at the same time. The advertisers would love it for just on the goals show. Chatting about that, 2:15. See you then. Bye.